the Grey Hat Beard podcast.
Hello and welcome to show 31 of Grey Hat Beard, the modern workplace podcast where we talk about all things Microsoft 365. Now, I've seen a warning's been going around on Twitter to get on with things and get nattering instead of nattering. So I'm going to start getting into this as quickly as we can. My name's Kevin McDonnell. I'm a solutions architect at CPS and I'm the Grey of Grey Hat Beard.
My name's Al Ridley. I'm the Hat of Grey Hat Beard, and I am Head of Modern Workplace at CPS and an Office MVP.
And my name's Gary Trinder. I am a Solutions Architect at CPS, an Office Development MVP and member of the PMP team. Also the Beard, Grey Hat Beard, not to forget.
Al going for your big head important role this week. Very impressive. Talking of impressive, we often don't talk about things that are going on, but you two have been at the MVP Summit last week. Have you got anything interesting you'd like to share? Any thoughts? Sorry, is that? Can't hear either of you? No, sorry, nothing? Okay. Damn, that NDA, it's always worth trying to catch you out on there. So yeah, we have had the MVP Summit. Sadly, I'm not an MVP, so I have no idea what's been going on, but these two keep smiling at me about it. So hopefully good news from that. We also had Sharepoint's 20th birthday. I know you two didn't attend, but I managed to jump on an Alt VR. I thought it was really interesting to see the use of Alt VR. I think they had a few teething issues with people being able to log in, but some really good memories coming out from that. And people talking about the good old days and
good memories of SharePoint.
Well, there was a certain amount of rosy tinted glassness. I think it's fair to say
it's more sharing war stories, isn't it? And showing scars and saying who's got the biggest scar, isn't it?
It's a bit like that Monty Python sketch, isn't it? Where it's but when I was a kid, I used to do 24-hour shifts, 25-hour shifts in a day, and I used to then get up the next morning. It's always like that. There's always someone with a worse story, isn't there? But yeah, I saw the pictures, and I think on one of the stands it said Infopath lives on one of them, which I thought was quite funny because yes, it still does live on. So yeah,
it is scary what is still around on there. But no, I thought it was a nice event. There was they had the nice balance of talking about the good things that are coming and Jeff Teeper and others there. So it was a pretty good roll call of people from Microsoft and others sharing stories. It did certainly trigger my imagination about Alt VR, and I haven't mentioned this YouTube, but I've started to build a Grey Hat Beard lounge in Alt VR. So it's fair to say it's harder than I thought it was going to be, but yeah, maybe we'll see something come out of that soon. Anyway, less waffle. Let's get on to the main bits. A few topics this week, and we've tried to group a few of the articles together into common themes. And I think the first one was Viva. And Al, you noticed that workplace analytics, which is kind of coming under the Viva Insights banner, has got a few updates that have been announced.
And Viva Insights does as well, which I think is more pertinent for most people. The workplace analytics is quite interesting. They're changing some of the information that they're actually pulling together. So what they actually count as triggers for information, the noise that they're actually measuring, they're adding other things into it, which is great. I mean, there's some stuff coming out that's going to be far better because they're going to have the team's instant messaging and all of the, I guess, more detail, which is always good. It's always important that we have as much information as possible. And I guess, it just shows that, under the hood, they're still aggregating more and more information and just, it's mind boggling how much information they must be capturing and how many events they are actually listening for every single person using all of these tools in order to be able to surface it. So, yeah.
And for those people who haven't seen Workplace Analytics, because it talks in this article about Power BI templates, you can slice and dice that data in your own ways as well.
Yeah, so basically it's an additional license, but what you're paying for is access to that additional information, what you get in the audit logging, but actually presented in a way that is easier to interrogate, easier to augment with other information. So whether it's, pulse surveys or, operational performance data, HR data, you can augment it, but you're getting access to all of that information. And out of the box, there's a massive suite of Power BI reports that give you, insights into the raw activity that's taking place. You need to obviously think about what question you ask and analyze it. in more detail. But that's the core premise, is that you get access to all of that information.
And I think it's interesting, some of the things it talks about here, like impact on plans. If you're running a wellbeing plan, trying to reduce after hours collaboration, so where you're trying to do something, you can actually use this to measure and really see whether that change is actually happening, which I think is really powerful.
The whole premise of how you would approach it would be baseline, get a benchmark of where you sat as an organization, ask questions of the data. As a result of that, work out how you're going to change things, what you need to change, try and implement those changes, and then come back and measure. It doesn't do anything on its own. It is just data. So it really is about measuring the change over time as you improve the way your employees work, improve the employee experience.
And we've talked a bit about Viva in many cases being a kind of brand change to this, but I think it's a real boost for workplace analytics, which has been a great tool. But now they're actually surfacing a lot more by kind of bracketing under Viva Insights and getting a lot more awareness of it, which I think is fantastic.
And it kind of leads on to the other announcements around Viva Insights, which is much more of the personal level, where workplace analytics is organizational data. It's anonymized. It's not, you can't drill into an individual. You're looking at team by team, and you're comparing teams and seeing how they're working.
Small t.
Small t team. Yes, sorry. Yes, small t teams. The Viva Insights is much more personal. It's manager, employee. It's my analytics, but rebranded as Viva Insights. And there's some really nice things that are coming through, because there is already a Viva Insights app that's ready to go into Teams, and you can add it in at the moment, but it has limited capability.
It's not much there at the moment. It's fair to say.
It's not, but it's great to see that in April they're rolling out some changes to that app. They're adding in some substance. It is things like the virtual commute going in there, being able to you can book focus time, but we're starting to see it come to life a bit, which is great to see. I can't wait to see all this stuff actually coming to life for people, because it will make it feel more joined up than the My Analytics piece is at the moment.
And sorry, Gary.
No, I was saying I thought exactly that. What I was saying, I really like My Analytics from the employee experience. Setting your focus time, setting your lunch times, even helping you when you're going on leave. Looking after your calendar. I really like that, but it felt very hidden away. It was kind of like you had to go into Outlook
access via email mostly.
Yeah, exactly. And bringing that into Teams just makes absolute sense. And I can see from the screenshots that there's
Sorry, Gary, was that a pun there with absolute?
Not quite. No,
if not, that was brilliant.
just rolls off the tongue, right? But yeah, seeing a lot of things are things that we've already seen, but it's bringing it front and center into Teams where everyone's generally working now, so it's accessible as well, and it's front of mind, right? Here's some help for you, and then obviously it's going to lead on to more of the Viva features that we've seen with the virtual commute and the integration with I can't remember the app now, but the
whichever one you choose to integrate with.
But I think that's the key. And what I was going to jump in for there was to sort of say it's interesting from this screenshot. The one that came through from Ignite had Headspace there, but now we're seeing more integration. So you've got your Microsoft To Do down there in the corner. Here's your tasks with the reminders, seeing that in one place. It's got that reminders about protecting your time and staying connected and things. And it's starting to show where those different apps are going to surface through this that are related to those insights. So it's not going to bubble everything. But I think that is where Viva will change, is starting to see more and more other things come into this. And hopefully it'll be controlled nicely, but it'd be interesting to see what does appear next.
And it is things like those daily emails. You start the day emails. These are the tasks that you said you were going to do. It's got all of that stuff hopefully coming together in a way that makes it even more accessible, even easier to work with.
Yeah, it's those features that I think we've already seen and had in different places, but just brought together, right? I think that's what it feels like. Yes. It's giving it more of a portal dashboard feel, I think. But it's good. No, I like it.
Yeah, and I've missed this one about delayed delivery of. So I knew you could set up delayed delivery of email, but I hadn't realised that connected in. So it knew, especially if you're sending it to someone internally, it knows when their working hours generally are, and will delay it to go with those. That is very nice.
Yeah, that is new. We'll have to see how that works for international clients. I mean, some of us put a footer on and say, you know, I might have sent this when it's not working hours for you, but yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out when it's
but it's the recipient's working hours. It's the recipient's working hours. So hopefully that, again, see what it actually turns out like. But
it comes back to
nicely.
How important is making sure that your calendar and your calendar settings are set correctly. Like,
absolutely,
it's all driven off that, and if it's not right, you might be getting some emails at random times.
Absolutely. I think the other bit of Viva news is that Viva Connections has landed. You can now turn on the Viva Connections app within your teams, and there was a lot of excitement on March 31st, and people like myself rushing to turn it on first thing. I think it's fair to say there wasn't the biggest excitement around it when the kind of realization that it really was a kind of app within Teams that was pretty much like those who pinned their intranet in there already. Wasn't the initial release, I don't think, has brought a lot with that. I think there will be a lot more to come from it. I know certain open source communities have managed to make that available already. I know, Gary, you and Veronique had a lovely chat about which one got there first and which one was better. I'm sure it was in a debate about something like that.
It's different options, right? There's now 3 ways that you can implement Viva in your tenant. You could use the Microsoft instructions that they released. There's PnP PowerShell, there's CLI for Microsoft 365. So you're covered, basically. However you work, you're covered. And I think that's the main message, right? Of that, you know, it's just making it more accessible. Yeah, I think the release has been a little bit underwhelming. I think most responses I kind of saw were more around the new app bar not updating more than anything else. I think that was another bit of a disappointment of the app bar's coming as well, and it's taking ages to update and it doesn't show up and it hasn't turned on in my tenant yet. So it wasn't as straightforward as it could be, but you've already got it on the screen. Victor Villen's blog post that goes into the detail of I quite like, because he's going into the detail of the Teams app, you know, what the manifest is doing, what each bit is needed for as well. So yeah, it really goes into great detail on this kind of scenario. So yeah, it's a great article. Definitely check that out.
Yeah, well worth a read for the more technically minded and developer-y focused. I think there's some really goes into what's involved and what's included in there. Really liked that, and put together very quickly as well. So I'm going to try and move on from Viva Connections a little bit, because I think there is a lot more coming in there and there will be more exciting things coming from that. But what a lot of people are kind of forgetting about and kind of go, it's all stuff you can do already. But the reality is a lot of people aren't doing this with their SharePoint, aren't talking about their communications, aren't thinking about their news plans and things. And there was something James Robertson, who works for what's the company called Step 2, put an article together about what's the digital maturity of your internal communications, and it's a lovely step-by-step view. I'm going to jump straight to the main model and just zoom a little bit. So think about your formal internal communications, the low maturity, looking at heavy use of email, getting to medium, getting regular timely communications, modern style, it's engaging, high maturity, getting targeted and personalized comms, two-way communications, real-time metrics. So it gives you a really nice way to look at those different pillars of sort of formal internal comms, collaboration, social and cultural, intranet, and modern work practices, and really look at what you're doing and making a decision of where you want to go, whether you actually, it's fine, this is what we want to do. We want to be at this level for, say, social and cultural, whereas maybe for intranet, we want it to be comprehensive governance in place. We want to understand the benefits. We want to get the most of there, and really thinking about what it is you do. And to me, this is a good tool if you're not if you haven't just turned on Viva Connections, maybe you're thinking about using it as a good excuse to revamp your intranet, your digital workplace. A great way of thinking about how you communicate with it and what the different pillars are within there, how that sits with Teams, how that sits with SharePoint, how that sits with email, and what the culture of your organization is. So I thought this was a really nice article to get people thinking about that, because that's where Viva Connections is going to be important.
Yeah, I think you make a very good point there, Kev, about, we're kind of sat here going, oh my God, yeah, Viva Connections is doing stuff that we already know, right? But we're in this bubble, right, of that we work with the product and we know that. What this is doing is at scale, opening it up to lots more organizations so that they can see, hang on, there's a SharePoint page that's running in an app that I can, open by just clicking that button on the left-hand pane in Teams. That is a complete mind shift of, hang on, I used to go to the browser to go to my intranet. Now, actually, I'm staying in Teams and I can get to my intranet through there. And it sounds really basic, right? But it changes the way people will think about, oh, hang on, we've got this other system. Well, could we make an app for that? It's just a page. It doesn't have to be a lot, but by bringing it into the Teams interface,
the hub that everyone's working in.
Exactly. The hub, then you can get into scenarios of, well, should we just put apps for particular groups of users? If we got a sales department that uses a particular app, we'll pin that just for sales, and then you'll really start to kind of roll with these little basic apps, but start to then think differently by using Teams for effectively displaying your business applications.
I think that's the thing. It is a complete change in the way people are going to think about it, and a lot of organisations haven't done anything on the left rail. They've done nothing with Teams. They've not even worked out how to pin things, personally. Yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of organisations go, well, there's so many connectors, great, but they don't realise actually there's tabs, there's bots, there's all these other different tools that you can use.
You've forgotten what the one about the popping up from the main chat messages is called as well, haven't you? Because I forgot what that's called.
Oh, the
messaging
extensions.
Messaging extensions. That's it. Yeah.
But there are all these other ways, but most of us have kind of gone, okay, well, I can see all these lovely little icons. I don't know what they actually do, so I'm going to stay away from them. Whereas this is actually saying, look, here's a really good use case. Bring this in. Start with this.
I think also lots of organizations with the pandemic have been pushed towards rolling out Teams a lot faster than they probably would have done. They're probably just taking a breather in many cases and trying to recover, and hopefully Viva with Viva Connections will be that push to the next phase of thinking about how you do things and putting that employee at the middle. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, it's Teams' line of business system, isn't it? Bring it the hub for line of business systems. That's what it could, really take off the next year, a couple of years, as people start to, like you say, build that maturity as well. For me, that's the really exciting part of Teams now. Is seeing that evolve.
Teams or SharePoint? Oh, who knows?
Does it matter?
It's all SharePoint. Come on. It'll be SharePoint framework, put it that way.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Or it could be Power Apps, which brings us neatly onto the next section of stuff we were going to talk about. Look at that, seamless. And what I think is one of the most exciting news articles I've seen for a while. There is now the capability of printing your Power Apps, so you can carry on killing off the environment in one go by printing all those apps and getting your pages out. Joking aside, I think this is quite a nice, interesting view, and there are plenty of situations where you do need to be able to print things and access that. And now there is the capability of doing that, which for those cases where you have it and you can't put it on a screen, fantastic. Please don't print out all your notes and take them to meetings, but the capability is there for those that need it.
This is really important. I've had apps in the past where customers still needed to print things. It was part of their process. They couldn't just make everything digital, and actually the workarounds and trying to create that printable page, you could do it, but it wasn't a great experience at all. It was very much dependent on what resolution you were using on your machine as to how it displayed. It wasn't great. So this has been a long time coming as well. I think this has been on the user voice for quite a while.
Yeah.
So again, I guess, good for Microsoft to actually pick that up and run with it and put it in.
I wouldn't
It's pretty much from day one on the user voice.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect everybody to be printing things, but as you say, there are those scenarios. Yes, I've just signed something, can I have a copy of it? Yeah, here you go. We'll send it to you and you can print it. Great. It's one of those things that there are so many scenarios where it's still important, even though we want to try and minimize the impact on the environment. But we can't avoid some of these scenarios. At least they're not asking to fax things.
Maybe that should be next user voice.
Custom
connector for fax. Yeah. Instead, you should think about your apps. And the next bit of news we saw related to Power Apps was the code review tool, which I think it's fair to say none of us have dug into in detail yet, unfortunately. But I like the idea of effectively having a way of having a checklist of things that before an app goes live, is it doing this? And you can track it, as you can see on the screen for those looking, that you can see details around what you should be doing and mark it as a pass or fail, and kind of encouraging people to look at the apps and do things properly with them, which
we've had the app checker for forever, and I think that still stands as something that needs to be run. But I think the code review, there's always so many gotchas with Canvas apps. When you're looking at Canvas apps going, oh, well, when do I need to put delegation in? Have I named everything? Do all these links work? Those are all the sorts of things that, I know we've had the conversation many times internally, what naming conventions. Oh, well, how do you name things? Where do you hide code? How do you name functions? There's all of these different things that we need to check.
Accessibility checkings as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's always something that, before anything goes out, we want it to have some kind of quality gateways and this gives us the option of having those quality gateways and defining them, which I think is definitely needed, especially as you start to kind of develop, rather than your citizen makers, you start to have actually proper applications that are gaining in the maturity and going from being a niche use case for one or a team of people to actually being escalated or elevated up to be something that's more line of business. These types of tools are essential when you actually have that progression up.
Absolutely. Yeah. One app that I think will definitely pass this, that I saw, it was interesting. Lauren Strant showed a little picture of this, and it exploded on Twitter. People were very excited. So I think he was planning to do a blog a week later, but accelerated that. And effectively, what he's got is a Samsung tablet outside his office. Ooh, getting spammed with adverts. Thanks for that, Lauren. That basically says, here's my calendar to the rest of the family. So we've seen a few of the kind of busy available lights that people have done, which are fantastic. But this is saying that a lot of the time, people are in meetings all day or their calendar's booked out. So it would probably say red all day and people ignore that. This is saying, actually, this is a really important meeting. Now, this is just Kev doing Grey Hat Beard or chatting with Al. Yes, you can come in and do some printing on there, that sort of thing. So I really like this, and I think it looks good. It's a simple one. I actually I've got an iPad, or I did have one until it broke last week, sadly, in the kitchen. We use that as our kitchen calendar rather than having a paper one that we can't access. All our stuff goes into my Office 365 account. We can all see that calendar and it gets put up there. So as we're walking past, we can see what's going on. But to have this as a more regular, here's today, here's when you can interrupt someone in the office, here's when you can't, I thought was fantastic. And he's made it all available to everyone as well. So really, somebody's got the links to that, but yeah, he's made the source code available so you can grab it, which I thought was quite nice.
Very good. Like that idea.
So yeah, if you've got an old tablet sitting around, pin it to the wall and there we go. Just got to find a power supply for it.
Yet another USB lead to plug in.
Yeah, sounds like a 5-minute job, which won't be.
Yeah, especially if you drill it right through the power.
Yeah, or the water.
That's a bad idea.
What have I done?
So our next group of news is Al's favourite subject on security. And there was general availability and public preview of the Microsoft Unified DLP key features.
Yeah, loads of changes to data loss prevention policies, and some really interesting ones as well. Especially where you think about exchange, where you don't have quite the same structure of elements that you can put in place. So adding in things like recipient is a member of, and having much more granularity around the policies that you can put in is going to be really powerful. Yeah, if the recipient is a member of this, then do something. So there's some really interesting changes that are coming out, but there's also a whole load of new actions.
Does that lead to greater complexity and potential confusion with overlapping rules? Something to be cautious of?
I think all of this will mean that there needs to be more planning, more forethoughts into how these rules are put in place, where they're applied. That certainly will take place. Every new capability adds complexity. Which is often a bit of a blocker for organisations setting some up. Setting up DLP rules is not an easy thing to do, where you've got sensitive information types, but where you now start to have one big one here is the sensitivity label being used as basically a control to say, if it's set to confidential, put a DLP policy on it just based on those labels. And being able to control what you do based on the label. So you've essentially already got another mechanism managing what those sensitivity labels look like, and then you can actually put a data loss prevention policy on just based on the labels without having to work through the same kind of rules.
I was quite surprised by this one that it didn't do it already.
It did it in a way that was based on search, and you could do it using search, but this is in the interface. I can actually just set this up really quickly and easily, which is always been one of the big asks.
So the big changes here is making it easier to set.
Making it easier, making it not based on keywords and search. So it's quite a useful one to add in, and make it planning a lot easier as well.
Absolutely. No, it was quite nice.
And then I think, one of the other ones was, I guess, the unification of more of the tools that are available. So being able to integrate Defender, and I've lost track of all of the Defenders there are. There was a great picture on Twitter of the Microsoft Defenders as a group of superheroes, which was very good. But integrating that with insider risk management and the information protection, and it all starting to really come together, so that rather than thinking about them all as discrete, sort of, well, we're going to implement this policy and that policy, and they're doing different things, and they maybe have different.
Microsoft Teams actually internally talking to each other and working together. Brilliant. That's what I have to hear.
Not all of them, only these ones. But it means it'll be a lot easier for organisations. It'll be a lot easier to actually plan out, your overall strategy, and then say, okay, well, these are the policies that we put in place for these different capabilities, and then to tie them up so that you're getting notifications from one because you've done one thing, and it all ties together, rather than it being, oh, well, I've got to just check my information protection or my identity governance or my insider risk. Coming together is fantastic. Makes it so much easier to implement, less daunting for organisations. So quite a lot in there for data loss prevention. A lot of features to make life easier for us there.
And I like that integration. I think it's been a long time coming, but getting the things talking to each other a lot more I think it's got to be the benefits. The
security compliance space in Microsoft is really starting to come together really effectively. You've got everything starting to interact and integrate much better now. There's much easier ways to do that, so that it makes the value much easier to recognise as well. I've got all of these things just playing together. There's not, oh, well, I've got this over here and that over there, and then I've got a third party somewhere else.
Nice. And the next one you shared was Azure AD verifiable credentials.
This is really
that like a blue tick in Twitter?
Basically, it is a bit like a blue tick in Twitter. It is making sure that you, rather than having things that you need to prove to other people and you have to provide something, it's saying, actually, I can get my bank to give you details of my income, but I have control of granting access to you. So they can basically publish the information, but I have the information, I have the credentials. So it's verifiable, it's coming from a recognized authority, but I can control who has access to that. So this is a part of an open standard initiative that Microsoft are engaging in, to basically have distributed identities that are transferable and verifiable. And they've had the government of Flanders doing this for citizens who want to start up a business, getting verifiable information coming from their bank and from the government, so they don't have to provide paperwork and all of that. It's just, yes, I'm just going to get that information and it's verified. And they're building APIs to allow this to take place, so you've got that multiple level of control to say, as an organization, I can provide validated information, and as an individual, I can control who has access to that information.
I think it's really interesting. I mean, this afternoon in the UK, we've had Boris Johnson talking about the vaccine passports and things like that, and that conversation that's going on so much about my data, controlling it. People are more aware of what Facebook and Google are doing with their data, and I think Microsoft's making a good stand about, let's put you in the position of being able to control that yourselves as well. It sounds like an interesting move towards that.
Yeah, I quite like that it's opening up the, what information can verify you as well, because, we talk about, multi-factor authentication. People go, oh, yeah, it's text message, but text messages are quite easy to fake as well. It's pushing it down that route of going, we've got these options and they've been around for a while, but they're not, they work, but they're not great. Here's something a bit more foolproof as well, and open it up. And it sounds like it's opening up that digital wallet story as well. I can't remember the last time I actually got cash out. I don't need to anymore. In fact, we're being encouraged not to use cash, which is even better. But the whole digital wallet there has been around for a while now. Yeah. So why not use it? I think it's a great idea.
So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how they take this forward. Validating your credentials, reference checking, all of that kind of stuff, could be using this distributed identity, and yeah, very, very interesting. And it's great that Microsoft are, helping to lead the way on this stuff and to make this accessible.
Absolutely. And it's that owning your own data.
Yeah.
The last one now was the right. You're going to have to work hard to convince me that this is an interesting one. So, security baseline. Security baseline for Microsoft 365 apps for enterprise. V2103, March 2021 draft.
So this is really interesting because Microsoft have been putting these baselines out for a while now, where they're basically saying, look, if you want to adhere to the best security standards, this is what we recommend. This is how you should set things up. And what they've done now is they've put this draft out and said, right, give us feedback. And it has everything you need in it. It's got the group policy objects in there. It's got scripts in there. It's got everything that you would need to implement it. And they're asking for feedback.
When it says Microsoft 365 apps, is this for people implementing their own apps, or
no, this is for basically Office,
using the Office ones?
Yeah. So it
things like macro signing and
so it's basically how to secure your content. BYOD, great, you've got an app. This is how you harden it. This is how you make sure that you don't have malicious content coming in through your apps, that you've got your macro notifications, that you're not actually leaving any loopholes in the apps that are actually going onto devices. And they've got, they've done this for Windows, and they've done it for Windows, Win 10 servers. And it's really great to see them that they're actually just pushing everything out, going, look, if you want to be secure, this is what you need. This is everything that you actually need to roll this out.
And these the GPO sets, so it's something you download and apply to your
so if you had
policies for your domain controllers and things like that I know a little bit about, and probably
enough to be dangerous. You've just talked about
exactly.
But it's all of that stuff. So endpoint management and all of that ties in. But all of this is basically Microsoft just making it easier and easier for us to stay secure and to know what good looks like. Whereas, it might have taken us, with a new version of Windows coming out, it might have taken us 3 or 4 months to come up with a gold standard that we then need to roll out to every single device. Well, Microsoft they're giving us the answers now. Here you go. This is what you should be looking at using. This is how we recommend you configure things. It just makes it easier.
A brand new domain controller. It has all that set by default then, or?
I was about to say that. Why is it a default if it's it's one of those things?
You might not be using group policies in this way. You might just be using Intune. So you might not be using Office apps. Okay. You might be using MSIs still. There's various reasons.
Okay, I doff my cap. You did make that interesting. I'll give you that one. I'll let the listeners decide more on that one. But
don't put a vote
good.
out.
I like the sound of that. It's useful. Lots to learn with that. Talking of which, there were some nice new modules about the Microsoft Graph fundamentals, Gary.
That was almost seamless, that, Kevin, where you went learn. Oh, Microsoft Learn. Yeah. So Microsoft Graph Fundamentals Learning Path has been added to Microsoft Learn. So I think it's a good point that, if you're working with Microsoft 365, you're going to end up using Microsoft Graph at some point. It's inevitable, right? So here's a nice learning path to go through to understand how the authentication works, what the graph is, how to use the Graph Explorer, and also to start building JavaScript applications. Interestingly, it's very JavaScript based. So if you're a .NET developer, C#, you're a bit out of luck. It's primarily looking at.
This is targeted at developers, though. Really, fundamentals for developers.
Developers, but administrators as well, right? If you're an administrator and you're managing your tenant, again, a lot of these options for configuring your tenant, you're going to go through the graph as well. So you might be writing PowerShell. You need to know how to authenticate, get an access token to call the graph, and change those settings. But I think it's a nice start that there's something more official there that people can take a look at and go through and learn more about. If you've not got an option in the UI, it doesn't mean that you can't change that setting. You're going to end up going through the graph. So it's a valuable skill to learn, whether you're an administrator, developer. For me, it's a fundamental of just managing things in the cloud. You have to know how to authenticate to call those services, whether that's Graph or SharePoint as well. So,
and I think for me, the Graph Explorer is absolutely fantastic. A number of times I've used that just to be able to effectively browse. Yep. See what's turned on, see what's available, getting lists of teams. It's pretty easy to use that and tie that in with some of the fundamentals here, and you've got a pretty powerful tool to use as well.
And I think that's it. I think a lot of people have probably got and used the Graph Explorer and they've got used to that, and it's you can log in with your own account. It's very sandpitty though. It's the how do I go from just invoking a request in the Graph Explorer to I actually now need to write my own script and chain things together. So it's helping you move forward.
CLI is the answer to that.
Well, I was just about to say that we can make it incredibly easy. You don't even have to call the graph. We'll do all the hard work for you. We'll call the graph in the background and give you some nice commands that do the job. But having that understanding is key as part of working in the cloud with Microsoft 365. So as well as the tools that make things easier, having that knowledge is vital to understand what's going on.
Now, I've been keeping an eye on the time.
It's from Louise Fries. So it's somebody who was embarked on that journey to learn this stuff herself, and is now writing about graph fundamentals. So it just goes to show, graph fundamentals are absolutely essential for everybody to understand.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I was neatly keeping an eye on the time to make sure we finish at 9 o'clock because we want to go and watch the Louis Theroux thing. And I've suddenly realised we've hit 9 o'clock, and I'm going to blame Al because I completely lost track. I was intrigued by the security stuff. So we're going to just cover a couple more stories. One, I think this didn't affect me too much, which I'm glad to say, but we did have another Microsoft 365 outage, and it's always DNS or a forgotten certificate, but this time it was DNS. I think it's a little bit scary seeing these things. I think it was a bad week for Microsoft because I think we had the DNS falling over, and I don't know if there was a picture. I saw a worse one. I think Andrew Connell shared, which basically had everything red apart from Data Factory in Canada was the only thing in the Americas region that you could carry on using. So you could probably run your data, but couldn't connect it to anything, sadly. But it was a pretty bad outage, I think, for Microsoft. If you throw in, they've had a bad week with the SharePoint framework V112. They've had to roll that back to 111 and have stopped the release of that one. So it's not been the best of, I think, probably fortnights for Microsoft, really.
Yeah, and it's off the back of the other outage that we had as well a couple of weeks ago with Azure AD, and that took everything out as well. So yeah, it's not been a great time. The SharePoint framework one, it was actually released. A lot of people have gone and upgraded their projects as well. That then got it's officially deprecated, so there will be a new version of 12.1 coming, but the official guidance is roll back if you unfortunately did upgrade, but for now stay on 111.
And I'm going to repeat my joke because it made me laugh anyway, but it was good to see on SharePoint's 20th birthday, they seem to take us back in the day where you always wait for the V1.1 version to come out before you actually go live with it. It's the good old days. But I think people are jumping on some of this stuff, and I can't remember, was it Al, you saw this one, that Oracle's offering to move clients to cloud for free as it plays catch up.
Yeah, it seems bonkers that they're not. I mean, Microsoft have had fast track for how many years to help clients move to the cloud?
Yeah, that's true.
And, I'm thinking, it's been 10 years that Office 365 has been around as almost a cloud first solution. And we've been, personally, I probably haven't touched a server unless I really, really have to for probably 5 years. And I would never look at working on a project that was on-prem. It just seems that natural. And to see this, that, the Oracle are just starting to roll out a service for their clients, I thought was absolutely amazing. It just didn't occur to me that they weren't already moving their clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And I assume you talk about fast track, that's more for the Microsoft 365 side of things. And there's there's fast track cloud migration tools, isn't there, for the Azure equivalent as well? So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's fast track for
playing catch up.
Yeah, it stunned me that they haven't moved or haven't been moving their clients.
I think Microsoft, it's all been about, certainly from the developer side, it's all been about modernization as well. How do you get your old apps and then into the cloud and see the benefits of running in the cloud as well? Take SQL as a perfect example. Get it off your tin, effectively, get it easily into Azure and get the benefits of security and
everything that we've been speaking about so far is all cloud. If you were to ask me about security on-prem, I'd be going, well, you manage it from the cloud. You're genuinely, you're pushing everything into Sentinel. You've got all of these other tools that are available, all the defenders, and then but it's not going to be on-prem. It's going to be in Azure anyway. So therefore, you're looking at Azure to manage everything. It just, it's amazing.
Does GPO and stuff like that, do you set that in the cloud?
In the crowd
policy in the crowd, yeah.
Well, you can set that from SCCM.
Yeah, of course.
But you can use some of it for. I mean, this is where they all kind of merge together into Intune Endpoint Manager, SCCM. There's all all sorts of stuff there. Depends what you're managing, doesn't it?
So last bit of main news, and I thought it was very interesting that Microsoft to sell augmented reality goggles to the Army, to the US Army, and they've got a $21.9 billion deal over 10 years. And I think it's fair to say that with future to coding and many of the Ignite sessions, there's been a lot about mixed reality over the last 3-4 years, and I think people kind of think, oh, brilliant, it's going to be there and we're going to see it on our desks, but it's been a slow burn. This is why Microsoft has kept at it. This is why Microsoft Mesh is there. This is why the push is. There is the justification. It's not something they're looking at 10, 15 years down the line. they think this is pretty close. I think we talked about it in the Ignite show when we talked about mesh, that there are some specific scenarios that it works for. Here's a great example for one. And I think it's got a picture of here. Somewhere I saw the US Army version of the headset. I'll see if I can find that in a sec, but it looks pretty darn cool. I think, to have something, I used to do Army cadets, and I did it at school and university. The hardware needs to be pretty rugged. It needs to be designed to work well and have lots of backups and things for there. So for the Army to be able to putting this stuff together, it's quite impressive. It's a big deal for Microsoft, I think.
See, every time I see the stories like this, just Universal Soldier is in my head, just straight away. Just I can't get it out of my head.
I think that's the thing, though, isn't it? That kind of investment will push the technology forward. It'll push it forward a lot. It's not just the hardware that's what the article's about, is the hardware, but there's all of the software and all of the tooling to create software for it.
Can't wait, Tech Radar.
Which will be beneficial for the rest of us.
Absolutely. But you can see that Microsoft are working very clearly with the Army to get a device that will work for them, and that's frontline. This isn't people sitting in a room controlling drones behind the scenes. This is people out there sorting stuff there.
Yeah, it's the commitment, isn't it? It's the commitment, the scrutiny of the devices as well, which everyone benefits from. So it's going to have to be solid, right, for it to work. So yeah, really interesting. And 10 years as well. I mean, that's a huge long-term deal as well. Which, when we're thinking, think back 10 years, where we're going to be in the next 10 years. Wow, that could be some future, right?
Indeed. I'm not sure whether Kevin's frozen.
I think he's disappeared.
Oh, he's disappeared. Oh, he's obviously gone off to watch TV, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's thought, Louis Theroux.
Oh, that's yeah. Oh, lucky him. Shall we? So what? Should we crack on with some events and stuff coming up?
Yes, I think events would be a good place to start.
So hopefully tomorrow Kevin will be back. But before that, or after that, 7th of April, we've got Teams Day online. So that's a full day, isn't it, of some quite good speakers there. I know Peter's speaking there about security. So 7th of April is tomorrow, day after. Day after. So hopefully you won't have missed it by the time this comes out. Next, we've got 13th of April. It's your AMA. It's a new one, isn't it?
Yeah, so and here's Kevin, he's back.
So the last thing I heard there was Gary saying in the next 10 years, and all I can say is the next 10 years I might have a machine that can work with Teams and Edge at the same time. That would be nice. Or Credge, should I say.
Well, we're just going through the events now.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So PMP, we're doing a series of Ask Me Anythings. So there's going to be sessions from all the different kind of initiatives. It was first started with PMP.js. There was an Ask Me Anything, which I think Patrick Rogers was on there, can't remember who else was on, but we've been asked to do an Ask Me Anything for CLI for Microsoft 365, which happens on the 13th on, I think it's 5 o'clock on Tuesday. Myself and Appy Shot, who we maintain the tool, we're going to be available for answering any questions about CLI, what we're planning to do with it, what we've done in the past as well. So if you use CLI and you're interested, you've got some questions, please come along. It'd be great to have a chat.
And if you're thinking of joining and just saying, can't I just use PMP PowerShell? Just don't. That's not fair to Gary or Appy.
Yes, Veronique, do not join.
And then on the 15th of April, we've got the London Power Platform User Group. We're just waiting for new meetup site for that one to go up. But we have Thomas, I can never remember, Posterick doing RPA, so that should be good. 26th to 28th of April is the virtual marathon. So I don't know whether speakers have been announced for that. I think they've got the first round, haven't they?
I think they have. I've certainly got things waiting, and I haven't heard either way yet. So.
This isn't a new twist on a conference, is it, where people are actually running and doing the sessions? That would be a bit harsh.
No, thank you.
No, you
no running involved.
You have to run to get the electricity to fire up Teams and to keep it going. Yeah, and if you stop, then that's it, done.
Yeah, that would explain a lot.
Just got visions of like lots of people in hamster wheels now.
It's like the Matrix.
And then we got the 28th of April. We've got the next Microsoft 365 security and compliance user group. So that's, we've got Victor Hedberg doing AD, and hopefully we are waiting for confirmation for the second speaker.
All of AD?
AD in the cloud. So it is, 1 second, how to extend and your current IAM processes to the cloud and beyond. And then in May, we have Teams Nation, which promises to be good. I think we're all speaking there. Don't know now. Now I've said it.
Yes. Yeah, I am.
So that should be good. I think there's 11 tracks, which is means it's going to be a pretty full-on day for Teams Nation on the 12th of May.
That should be a good event.
As you dropped off, Kev, you threw up a screen and then you disappeared. Do you want to just highlight that again?
What I think I was about to shout about was just to talk about the cloud conversations with Rue and Pete, otherwise known as the bearded IT pros, as I've nicknamed them on there. So they've started a new YouTube channel and podcast. I saw over the weekend they're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify now. So just them nattering. They're going to have some guests coming on talking about careers, all sorts of things. So just wanted to say, Pete's a great guy. I don't know Rue so well, but looking forward to listening to that a bit and hearing what they got to say. So if you do love your podcast, give them a listen as well. And I think that's all, isn't it, for this week?
I think that is. You've missed 15 minutes.
Yeah, we're off to go, and it's all the waffly bit with Louis through at the beginning, so we'll have to go and catch up on that.
It's on catch up, so it doesn't matter. It is for me anyway.
I was going to say, if you actually missed a TV program in this day and age, I'd be very disappointed in you both.
I know, right?
Exactly. But we will be back next week. We'll be recording next week with Laura Graham Brown. I can never remember what her surname actually is apart from GB. It always catches me out there. Talk about the power of data. So we had Laura on just before Christmas with her end of year show, but we're going to have her back talking about all the great things she does with Power BI and what you can do with it. And having put together a dashboard at the beginning of the weekend that's helped me monitor a migration very nicely and cut down the amount of logging onto different machines I've had to do this weekend, I can definitely vouch for the power of data. So keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, I've been Gray.
I've been Hat.
I've been Beard.
Thanks very much and see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.